Stream overlays look nice, but they take up a lot of space, and so does your model. So one solution to keep some of that real estate for gaming is to purchase one of these minimalist overlays that still have some personality, but take up way less space. And you can grab one of these on a site like VGen, or even commission someone to make one custom. But I know some of us are on budgets, so I'm gonna show you how you can make something like this using just OBS and some free plugins. Let's grab the plugins first. The bare minimum that you're gonna need is the Advanced Masks plugin by Finite Singularity. Depending on how versatile you want or need your overlay to be, I'd also pick up Source Clone. It might just help out with some potential issues down the line. But if you want some extra aesthetic options as well, I would recommend picking up a few plugins to make things look pretty. In this video, I'll be using mostly the Retro Effects plugin, Gradient plugin, Stroke Glow Shadow plugin, and the Shader Filter plugin. These are all really easy to use and offer tons of neat effects to help customize your overlay without having to take things into an editing app like Photoshop. If you want more info on these or don't know how to install them at all, you can watch this video here for an overview. Later on, if you want this to be a toggle, you can set it up easily on your Stream Deck, but if you don't have one or don't want to use it for some reason, I'd recommend picking up a bot like Streamerbot if you haven't already. It'll just make setting up the toggle way easier. And once you have all of the plugins installed, we can open OBS and start working in here. This is going to be kind of like an old Phlox style of video where I just do it live with you and commentate it as I do it. So it's hopefully a better format for you to learn. So first up, we have to make a scene for the overlay itself. So let's make a new scene. And this is where we're going to make the base background. So I'm going to be using for my base a gradient. If you don't have the gradient source, you can also use just a regular color source here. It does pretty much the same thing, it's just not a gradient. And I'm going to configure this real quick. I'm gonna just do similar to the example that I showed in that short form content. I'm just gonna pick my colors and I'm gonna rotate this to where the black is on the bottom. And honestly, that's all I really need. So I'm gonna hit OK. And if you're doing a color source, I'll show you real quick. If you're doing a color source, it's the same thing. You just pick your base color. This is so violently red. I'm gonna delete that though. I don't need it. Once your color base is configured, you're just going to click on the source itself and then go to the filters button. You can also right click and go to filters with this here as well. Then I'm going to right click in the effect filters tab and I'm going to add a new advanced mask. And I'm going to leave this as rectangle for this tutorial, but you're welcome to use any of the different shapes that you want. The tutorial should work mostly the same for any of these, so feel free to pick whichever one that you want. I'm just going to use rectangle. I'm going to, and this is aesthetic choices here. I'm just going to make this into a square and then I'm going to rotate it by 45 degrees. And then I'm going to just slightly round the corners as well. And now we get into the aesthetic options as well. This part is the customization part. You're welcome to do whatever you want. You're also welcome to copy exactly what I do. I'm just gonna play toys here for a minute and get this to a point where I think it looks cool. So I'll probably fast forward here. And that looks pretty good to me. I'm just going to leave it there. Feel free to add more or less. Just know that if you add any transparency stuff in the middle, it will affect the actual masking method that we're using. So make sure that you have, at the very least, a solid base. And then we can close this out. Now we're going to add in the mask for our model. So we can go ahead and just hide this while we're working on that. I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a new color source. And we can just name this Vtuber mask. And then the color for this doesn't really matter. I like using green just so I know it's a mask, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be invisible. And now I'm going to explain really quick what exactly we're doing because this can be kind of confusing. So we want our model to fit inside of the base shape, but then we also want to spill out over the top. So we can't use just the base shape for our mask because it'll cut us off. It'll cut the head off, right? And we don't want that. That is bad. So we have to use either this shape with a regular mask or this shape with an inverted mask. And I am going to be using the inverted version of this because I tried to do it with the regular mask at some point and it did not work, or I couldn't get it to work or something. So just trust me. So there's going to be two parts to the mask. It's going to be the base diamond shape or the base whatever shape that you just made, and then an additional rectangle to kind of cover up the bottom half. So we're actually just going to steal the mask from the base that we just made. So click on your base again. Actually, I should rename this so this makes more sense. So I'm going to click on my overlay base and go into the filters. And then on that base advanced mask filter, I'm going to right click and copy it. Then we're going to click on our VTuber mask. We're going to go into the filters and we're going to right click and paste that mask in. So now we have the same mask, but we actually want this to be inverted. So hit the invert button right here. And then we're going to add yet another mask. So right click and add an advanced mask. And we're going to leave this as rectangle, and we're going to increase the width so that it spans the entire length of your screen, and you can increase the height a little bit, just enough to where you'll have enough rectangle to cover the bottom half of your screen. And then we're going to pull the center Y down until we have this sort of cutoff point. And keep in mind that there is going to be a sweet spot depending on what shape you're using, because if I had like my arm here per se, my arm might look a little weird getting cut off by like this strange little corner thing happening over here. We can adjust that later once we have our model in, but just make sure it's somewhere along the middle line and you should be good for now. We can make finer adjustments later. And we're also going to hide this as well because we don't need to look at that right now. Now we're going to add in our VTuber model. So right click and add source. I'm using Spout2 Capture. If you're not using Spout2 Capture, I highly recommend switching to Spout2 Capture. It's very performant compared to other methods of capturing. I have a tutorial on it. It's kind of old. I should probably update it. Anyway, it's pretty easy to install and start using, so I'm going to use my Spout Capture and make this my VTuber model. And we'll leave this as first available sender, unless you have multiple Spout sources, in which case you will switch to VtubeStudio Spout in particular. You can either set this as default or pre-multiplied alpha, depending on what you need. If you have any like color dodge kind of stuff on your model, you might want to leave it as pre-multiplied alpha just in case, and then hit OK. So here is where source clone comes into play. I want to talk about this real quick. So let's say I had another scene. This is like my main scene. Let me add an image to make it look convincingly like a real scene. Okay, there we go. Perfect. This is totally a real scene now that it has the SpaghettiOs in it. Okay, so if I added my existing Spout capture of my VTuber model, yay, wow, so cool. Look, I'm in the scene. That's awesome. Okay, so what if in this scene where I'm definitely playing video games, I added a filter, like, what do I add that looks mildly normal? Let's just add retro effects in for fun. So I'm glitching out in this scene. Okay, cool, that's great. But what if I don't want to be glitching in the minimal overlay? Well, that's a problem because this source is the same exact source that's in this scene, which means that no matter what, if I have that filter active, it's going to show up that way. Maybe we don't want that. So what we can do is let's remove this. Instead of having the actual VTuber model in our overlay, we're going to make a source clone. And this is what I was talking about before. It's a plugin that basically lets you replicate a source, and then you can make adjustments to that source without affecting the original source. It's good for stuff like this. If you're just using Spout Capture though, and you're not worried about like your filters and all of that, just ignore this part. You can just leave your Spout2 Capture and you'll be fine. Just skip ahead. There will be timestamps probably. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to instead add a source clone, and then I'm going to name it VTuber clone so I know the difference, and then I'm going to leave it as source and set the clone to my, where is it, VTuber model. So now if I add any weird filters to this, like let's add a glitch filter. Okay, cool. If I go back to my main scene, the glitch is not there. It's only in the scene where the source clone is. Hopefully that makes sense. So that is why I'm using a source clone, and I will continue to use a source clone. Anyway, let's delete this glitch so we don't have to look at it. Now that you have your VTuber model being captured and ready to go, we can turn back on our overlay base, and I'm going to quickly hide myself from this source because I'm going to resize my model and I will be in the middle of everything, so goodbye. Now I'm going to open up VtubeStudio, and I'm just going to move my model so that I'm kind of in line with where I want to be inside of the overlay. Probably something like that. Again, we can adjust after we finish. So I'm going to minimize that again. And now I'm going to click on my VTuber clone and I'm going to open up the filters and I'm going to right click and add, guess what? Guess what I'm going to add? Another advanced mask plugin. Yep. Except this time we're going to switch the mask type to source, and we're going to set the source to our, let's see, VTuber mask. And it's inverted, so we're going to hit the invert button. And now we should be exactly where we want to be. Now, if you want to make any fine adjustments, like let me show you kind of what I was trying to explain before. If I was zoomed in like this, see how my arm has this strange like cutoff thing? This is where you might want to, here, let's just move me over like this. This is where you might want to go into your mask and go into the filters. And on the second advanced mask, you might want to like adjust the Y so that this is less jarring, but obviously in most cases you're just going to be completely centered, so it's not that big of a deal anyway. Like you can see BugBot's cables are messed up, so I kind of have to keep myself at this size for it to look normal. But you can adjust your model size and your mask placement depending on what you think looks best. So now your overlay is done. So we can go into our main scene and we can either do a source clone or a nested scene. So you can put in the entire scene and add in your minimal overlay. And this looks funny because my body's still there. So that works. Or you can do the same thing, but with a source clone. I honestly don't know if it matters which one you use, if one of them's more performant than the other. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But the important thing is that we probably want to be down in the bottom right corner. So we're going to just do a little resize here, put ourselves over here in the corner. Nice. Okay, and now we have to set up the toggle, right? So sometimes we want our model to be just standing here small in the bottom right, and sometimes we want to be inside of the overlay. So we have to have some sort of hotkey, Stream Deck Action, Streamerbot Action, something like that, that will, one, resize our model to where we need to be, and two, switch out the source visibility. It's pretty easy to set up just inside of Stream Deck, so I'm going to show you what that would look like. Inside of the Stream Deck software, we're going to get things set up. If you don't know how to use the Stream Deck software or don't know how to use your Stream Deck at all, I have a video. I'll link it in the top right as well as down in the description to help you out. But you're going to need two plugins before we start doing this. Those plugins are going to be the OBS plugin, and you can download them directly in the app. It's going to be this one here, and then the VtubeStudio V2. There it is. The VtubeStudio plugin as well. So these are the two that you will need for this. We're going to use a multi-action switch for this. So let's drag one of those into here. We're going to start with the OBS source visibility. So I'm going to drag a source visibility, what is this, a sub action? I don't know what it's called, into here. And I'm going to set it to my main scene where the overlay would actually show up. And I'm going to set the minimal overlay to show. And now we're going to add another source visibility toggle. So I'm going to drag one of those in and I'm going to set it to, again, the main scene and set this to my VTuber model. And this we're going to hide. So what is happening is it's turning on the minimalist overlay and turning off the regular model. But then we also have to do a resize to make sure we're positioned correctly. I am not positioned correctly, so I'm going to hide myself in my recording again, and I'm going to put myself where I need to be. And again, it looks weird because they're both active. This is actually cut out. It's just showing me twice. So probably somewhere like right here. I'm going to minimize this. And then inside of Stream Deck, I'm not going to be able to talk to you for a moment here. I'm going to be invisible. Inside of Stream Deck, we're going to add a VtubeStudio move model hotkey, drop that in, go to the options tab and hit get current. And this will copy the size, rotation, and movement of your model. So we can minimize this. So now on the other side of the hotkey action, we're going to do the same thing. You can either copy and paste this stuff in, or you can just redo it. Honestly, it's probably faster to redo it. Maybe there's a way to copy all actions over. I don't know how to do that. So I'm just going to drag these in and I'm going to do the same thing, but it's going to be inverted. So set it to main scene. The overlay, we're going to hide and then do another one, set it to main scene. And the VTuber model, we're going to show. And then we're going to add a move model hotkey. And let me hide myself again. We're going to place ourselves, let's see, let's move like down here, probably something like this. Go back into Stream Deck, go to your move model hotkey or action trigger, whatever this is called, and then go into your options tab and hit get current. So now let's hide one of them. And if I press my Stream Deck hotkey, it switches between the two. Obviously, this is looking a little bit weird because of the timing. So we can, let's see, hide the source first, move the model, then add a little bit of a delay for like 200 milliseconds. and then turn the source back on. And then we can do the same over here. So turn off source first, then move the model, and then we can add 200 millisecond delay. And this should help remove the flash. Okay, so inside of Streamerbot, ignore all of this stuff. This is all of my regular stuff. Let's right click and add a new action. We're going to name this minimal overlay on. There's two ways to do this, by the way. You can have both the on and off button in one action if you want, but then you have to do like some logic stuff, and I feel like that's just too advanced. So I'd rather just show you make an on button and then make an off button. Inside of the on button, we're going to right click and we're going to add. Can you even see this? I'm in the way. Right click, add, OBS, sources, set source visibility state. And we're going to set it to, again, the main scene, set VTuber model to hidden, and then we can right click, duplicate sub action, open up the second one, and we're going to switch this to minimal overlay, visible, and then we need to resize our model again. So let's right click, add integrations. You can't fucking see it again. So right click, add integrations, VtubeStudio, move, where is it? Move model. Let's get our placement right, minimize, minimize, and we're going to hit capture model position. This you're going to set to false. And this we're going to set to time in seconds as small as possible. We want it to move very fast. The only other thing that I would recommend doing is, if this is in the order that you copied from me, I would move the model movement in between the hidden and visible, because that way the model movement happens while the model is not showing. So I'm just going to move those real quick. And now if I test this out, it's pretty fast. There's still a little bit of a flash. So if we want, we can right click and add 4 delay, like 0. Oh, this is in milliseconds. Let's add like 200 mils. There we go. And that looks a little bit better. So now you can easily switch between the two. So now you can either swap between them with your Stream Deck, or you can swap between them with Streamerbot, whichever one you want. Be sure to add delays if it's looking weird and there's a little bit of a flash. So now you should have a functional either Streamerbot action or a Stream Deck hotkey for you to use, for you to toggle between this overlay and just like your model by itself. So I hope this tutorial helped you guys. Let me know if you guys want more sit down and work together type of tutorials, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.